Breaking news out of the University of Virginia. 3 football players shot and killed. 2 other students shot but survived. It happened after students returned from a field trip to D.C. And here is the most shocking part of it all. The suspect is a fellow student and former member of the football team. Were there clear warning signs, and why would he allegedly do it? We have the latest from Virginia.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And absolute shock, dismay, broken hearts, everything when you talk about what happened at the University of Virginia. And when you say those 2 words and you put them together, school shooting, no matter what the context is, it's always tragic. Whether it's an elementary school, someone breaks in, a middle school where someone brings a weapon, or something like this at a university where 3 members of the football team are gunned down. Those 3 team members, Devin Chandler, Deshaun Perry, Lavelle Davis, all 3 are gone. They're not coming back. And when you think about the level of loss for what they had and what was in front of them, that's what makes this so much more tragic. Young people who are working hard, playing football and going to school, a great school, by the way, the University of Virginia, not easy to do. Not easy to do. And these 3 apparently coming back from a field trip on a weekend. So when you think about the loss of life and you wonder a couple of questions, and they always come to mind in these situations. And the first one we ask is, why? Why would he do it? Like, what? There has to be a reason, a story, some understanding for the senseless taking of 3 young lives. 2 other people were shot also. They apparently survived. But this is a mass murder. Make no mistake. So why do people commit mass murder? What's the story behind all of this? Second thing, a lot of people ask, we all ask, could it have been prevented? Were there warning signs? Was there any writing on the wall? Was someone saying or doing or acting out, or was there something that would motivate a person to do it and someone could have stepped in? A lot of questions still surrounding this, but I'm sure on the campus tonight, it's more about sorrow. It's more about sorrow. But at some point, it's going to be about those 2 questions. The other question is who did it, but apparently they have the suspect in custody. Let's bring in our guest we have joining us tonight from Charlottesville, Virginia. Senior national correspondent with CNN, Miguel Marquez, joining us live tonight. There he is. Great to see you tonight, Miguel. I wanted to get from you, first of all, tonight, what's happening on that campus, what the mood is, and where we are tonight there.
Well, I heard your words at the top of the show there, and you are exactly right. Just incredibly somber. We just saw the most moving thing, and I want to show you here. It's hard to make out because it's so dark here, but this is the lawn, which is sort of the center of all campus life here at UVA. And they're breaking up now, but there were thousands of students on this lawn.
I think we've lost audio from Miguel. Oh, there we go.
Massive vigil. Massive vigil to those that died, those that were shot. There are still several hundred people on the South Lawn now that are still gathered together, and it's just so somber to see. We cover these things far too often. One's heart could get hard against these things, but to see these students sort of come out of their dorms and of their apartments today and start to engage back in life, and then to see this coming together tonight of these people to remember these 3 individuals who died, the 2 that are shot. Everywhere around campus now you see the numbers 1, 15, and 41. the jersey numbers of the 3 football players who died. It is always just tough to cover these things. Your heart goes out to these young people who are dealing with this. No one ever thinks that they're going to have to deal with it until it's in their backyard. Vinny?
So you mentioned the 3 victims who died. There were 2 other victims. What do we know about them? We know they're football players, but it seemed like they were not at practice on Sunday, but taking part in a field trip.
No, a lot of kids that we spoke to today had just seen them play last Saturday. There was a game coming up this week that will probably not happen. There's a game coming up next week against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, where there was a shooting outside campus this year in which 4 people were shot. 1 was killed just off campus, a teenager. And of course, in 2007, one of the deadliest mass murders at Virginia Tech, 32 people were killed there. It's not clear that that game will go on. There was a UVA basketball game that was supposed to happen tonight. That is now off as well. And these 3 young players, you know, their entire lives were ahead. Devin Chandler was a wide receiver from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Lavelle Davis was a wide receiver from Ridgeville, South Carolina, and Deshaun Perry was a linebacker from Miami, Florida. Their lives just cut short. The 2 people were injured. One's in good condition, as we understand. The other is critically injured, and it's not clear that they will make it, although they've been in the hospital for some times now. So hopefully they will pull through. But just this has changed the trajectory of so many lives here. Vinny?
And let's talk about the suspect. They were looking for him at first, in custody. What do we know about him? Were there any warning signs, strange things happening in his life? And what's a little bit of his background?
I mean, hindsight is always 20/20. But yeah, look, this is a 22-year-old young man. He was a football player in 2018. He was on the football team. He never played any games. The university is saying he hadn't been on the football team for the last few years. It sounds like they were all on this bus together. They went to see a play in Washington, D.C. It seemed like a school function. It's not clear who was arranging it, but they were all in a bus. When witnesses we spoke to said they heard the shots fired on the bus, and then people came sort of tumbling off the bus as it was still rolling onto campus, and that's where at least 2 people died, a third outside the bus. Christopher Darnell Jones, there was a threat assessment that was done on him by UVA police. His roommate or somebody who knew him said that he had a gun. Guns are prohibited here on campus. There was no threat attached to him having a gun, but in the process of doing that threat assessment, they found out there was a 2021 charge of a concealed weapons charge that they never quite got to the bottom of. There was also a hazing incident that he was involved with. It's not clear if he was the target of the hazing or somebody who was hazing others, but because nobody else spoke out, they closed the case and nothing ever happened. So obviously those questions will now be asked about whether or not more could have been done, whether that threat assessment needed to go to a deeper level. I mean, you have to give credit to the police today for making all this information available, but it must come as a very difficult thing to do when you have the outcome that you have today. Vinny?
Miguel Marquez, senior correspondent, CNN in Charlottesville tonight, where the mood is heavy. Thanks so much, Miguel. I appreciate your reporting.
You got it. You got it.
All right, so Miguel on the scene. You saw all the students back there, lighting the candles and trying to figure out what's going on. Like, what is going on? So we did learn a little bit more today from the university president, James Ryan, and the chief of police, Tim Longo. Let's take a listen to what they had to say.
Last night at approximately 10:30 p.m., University Police responded to a call of shots fired in the Culbreth parking garage area. The suspected shooter is UVA student Christopher Darnell Jones Jr. Upon arrival at the scene, University Police encountered several victims of gunshot wounds. The shootings occurred on a bus full of students returning from a field trip. 3 of the victims did not survive. They were Devin Chandler, a second year from Virginia Beach, Virginia, Lavelle Davis, a third-year student from Ridgeville, South Carolina, and Deshaun Perry, a fourth-year student from Miami, Florida. All three were members of the football team. Two other students were wounded and are being treated for injuries at the UVA Medical Center. One is in good condition, one is in critical condition. In order to protect their privacy, we are not releasing their names at this moment.
The bodies of Devin and Deshaun, as President Ryan indicated, were found inside a charter bus where they had been for the day, enjoying a school activity, having a meal together, and coming back to our grounds. And someone amongst them chose to do an act of violence. And we found them dead inside that bus. And for hours, we had to process a crime scene. And I know I don't have to tell you how difficult that is for a family to not know, to see email chatter and social media. And boy, we did our best to try to keep up with that, to let people know what we knew and what we were trying to do. And hopefully now that we've caught up, we'll be able to continue to share that message to the many families across this world that have young people here at our university, to let them know that their young people are okay and that there will be people here for many days to take care of them. This strong law enforcement presence that you've probably seen on our grounds for the last several hours, represented by the agencies behind me, will stay here. We've secured arrest warrants for Mr. Jones. We've charged him with 3 counts of second-degree murder, and we charged him with 3 counts of using a handgun in the commission of a felony. Those facts and circumstances were reviewed by a judicial officer, and those are the charges that were proffered. Mr. Jones came to the attention of the University of Virginia's threat assessment team in the fall of 2022. In fact, in September of 2022, our Office of Student Affairs reported to the multidisciplinary threat assessment team that Mr. Jones, they received information that Mr. Jones had made a comment about possessing a gun to a person that was unaffiliated with the university. In other words, a third party. That reporting person, again, unaffiliated with the university, to the best of our knowledge, never saw a gun. The comment about Mr. Jones owning a gun was not made in conjunction with any threats. The Office of Student Affairs followed up with the reporting person and made efforts to contact Mr. Jones. In fact, they followed up with Mr. Jones' roommate, who did not report seeing the presence of a weapon. Pardon me. Thank you, Captain. We just received information the suspect is in custody.
That was the moment. That was the moment when they realized, okay, the whole campus locked down, trying to find this guy. And at that moment is when the chief got word that he was, in fact, in custody. All right, let's got a lot to talk about tonight. Let's bring in our guest. Joining me tonight in Nashville, Tennessee, retired sergeant for the Nashville Police Department, Melissa Pinkleton. And joining us by phone in New York tonight, former senior special agent with the Drug Enforcement Administration, founder and CEO of the Global Security Group, David Katz, is with us as well. David, are you in fact in New York? Just want to make sure.
I am, in fact, in New York.
Okay, you're in the middle of it. Melissa, let me start with you, though. Let's talk about the investigation. As the chief was describing, you respond to that scene, and it's a charter bus. So, you know, a bus, that means there's lots of people on the bus, lots of young people, scared people, horrified people, and unfortunately, dead people as well. How do you approach that scene, and what is that like to try to handle a situation like that?
It's going to be very chaotic, but approaching that scene and getting that initial call, your first job as first responding officers are to get there, approach the bus with your weapons drawn, and to clear the bus to make sure that there are no other suspects on the bus. And once you've cleared the bus of any potential suspects and around in the general area of the bus, your next step is to render aid. And obviously, at the same time, you'll be calling in what has gone on, your observations, asking to set up command, asking for supervisors, medics. You want SWAT staging up somewhere. A lot of different things going on, and but definitely getting medical attention and rendering aid to these 3 young men who were, unfortunately, their lives were taken too soon.
David Katz, this was a very tense situation at the University of Virginia. Before that moment we just showed everyone where the suspect was brought into custody. What are your thoughts about how you handle situations like that and how our universities are handling situations like that?
Well, we've learned a lot because we have had situations in Virginia, unfortunately involving horrific active shooter incidents on campuses. And in this case, once you have a multiple homicide, you have wounded victims, you have an individual who is not in custody, your next step is to make sure that no one else is harmed. So I think they did the right thing. They went into their active shooter protocol. They told people to lock down, stay exactly where they were. They actually should I don't know the type of training they have. They should make sure they're in secure locations, make sure they're not easily accessible to anyone who wishes to do them harm. But that's the way. That's the correct approach. Then contemporaneously, that's when law enforcement is starting the search, trying to find the perpetrator. They did a great job, by the way.
Absolutely, it was fast. Melissa, by the time they're giving the press conference, he's in custody. We heard the chief get the news as it was happening. But let's talk about the why of it, right? Part of this investigation, everyone's going to know, why did he do it? If it was something that happened in the moment, seems to me like you've got a lot of witnesses, people who were on the bus who unfortunately witnessed exactly what happened.
Yeah, you would have a lot of witnesses on the bus. And talking about the why he would do it, so what we do know, I mean, all this is speculation at this point, but what we do know is he played on this team, well, or rather rode the bench on this team years ago. So he was affiliated with this team in some form or fashion and on the team. So if I had to speculate from here, and plus now that he's also going on team trips, which is still keeping himself affiliated with the team, I would speculate that there was some kind of a grudge, or there were some hard feelings about it. And for whatever reason, he decided to handle it in this awful, gruesome manner. But yet, you have two witnesses that are still alive, and you have other people that were not hit, and you had plenty of people around there. So as far as eyewitness testimony, I think they're going to be good to go there.
All right, Melissa Pinkleton, David Katz staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about the threat assessment, because in this case, there was a threat assessment that was done this fall. He passed it somehow, some way. We'll talk about that, plus coming up next hour.
In Clayton County, Georgia, a woman accused of murder shows up for her trial, but her lawyer is a no-show. She tells the judge he had a stroke and is in the hospital. The judge is skeptical and postpones the trial, but holds the lawyer in contempt.
I am going to also file a grievance with the State Bar of Georgia because of his behavior.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
Darrell Brooks, who is representing himself, is set to learn his fate.
And you'll see it all right here on Court TV.
The deadly parade crash sentencing. Live coverage Tuesday on
Court inspection and estimate.
He was still a student, but to my knowledge, he was no longer on the football team and hadn't been on the team for over a year.
Okay, so the suspected shooter at the University of Virginia, who's accused of murdering 3 football players, was once on the team and then was off the team. One of those peculiar facts that's coming out. So obviously, it seems like he might know the victim, so it's not random, right? I want you to take a listen here to the chief of police talking about a hazing incident as well.
Mr. Jones also had come to the attention of our threat assessment team because he was involved in a hazing investigation of some sort. I don't know the facts and circumstances of that investigation. I know that it was eventually closed due to witnesses that would not cooperate with the process. But through the course of the threat assessment team's investigation, we learned of a prior criminal incident involving a concealed weapon violation that occurred outside the city of Charlottesville in February of 2021. What's interesting about that case is he's required as a student at the University of Virginia to report that, and he never did. And so the university has taken appropriate administrative charges through the university's Judiciary Council, and that matter is still pending adjudication.
Okay, but they were doing a threat assessment. It's a guy who's lying about a charge, a concealed weapon charge, at least not revealing it. Let's bring back in our guests, Melissa Pinkleton, retired sergeant, Nashville Police, and David Katz, former senior special agent for the DEA, founder, CEO of the Global Security Group. David, let's talk about a threat assessment that was just recently done this fall, apparently started by him allegedly talking about having a gun. They talked to the roommate. Roommate never saw one, but he apparently had spoken about it. Then they uncover what we just heard, this concealed weapon charge off campus that he didn't reveal, and then some investigation about a hazing incident where people are not cooperating. What are your thoughts about the threat assessment, David?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Well, first of all, the first thing that jumps out at me is the fact that the student is supposed to self-report a criminal charge. I don't mean to make light of it, but that is just patently foolish. With respect to the threat assessment, I'd like to know who did it, what did it consist of, was he interviewed, was there a forensic psychologist involved, did they go through we do this in our practice. We have a long extensive checklist where we look at forms of communication and personality issues and the way people are communicating and certain triggers in their lives. So I'd like to know the extent of which, or the extent of the threat assessment to find out what exactly went wrong here, because there's a lot of moving parts, but I think it's pointing to maybe they should have known something was up with this guy.
Yeah, Melissa, your thoughts about the threat assessment. So he's on the university's radar enough so that, you know, university police are conducting some level of an assessment here. So it seems like they're on top of it, but somehow, some way, he sort of clears the assessment.
Well, like David, I would like to know what that threat assessment involved. And I would like to know, when they say threat assessment, are they talking about actually asking a few questions or using a true and actual form for a threat assessment? Because it involves a little more than, hey, buddy, you feel all right today? Do you have a gun today? Do you want to hurt yourself? There's a lot more that goes into an official threat assessment than just checking on a little buddy. Now, so they found that he had a gun, a prior gun charge that he did not disclose before this incident. Is that correct, from my understanding, if I have this right?
Yeah, he was charged with a concealed weapon charge from 2021.
Okay, and he didn't disclose it to the school. My question is, why did the school not confront him about this, talk to him about this, get some more information about this? Or did they just kind of go, oh, that was then, this is now, I'm sure he's a much better kid and we won't have any problems with him? I feel like with what we know right now, I feel like somebody or somebody else has dropped the ball somewhere, and this might have been actually a preventable one. We all talk about, oh, we could have prevented this. This might have been one that we could have actually prevented.
With specific information, right? You know, there's a red flag going up. There was a red flag going up, and there was an investigation, and I guess it depends upon the level of investigation. So David Katz, as we watch this story unfold, obviously we'll learn more in the days to come, but do you think that is where the improvements will be made perhaps in the future in looking closer at what we do when it's time to assess a student as a potential threat?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is exactly right. Unfortunately, it takes a tragic incident like that to change protocol, to change policy, to see exactly what can be improved in the future. But unfortunately, 3 young men lost their lives, and you know, and maybe going forward, there'll be a positive to, you know, this horrible incident. But you know, that's the fact of the matter, that we learn only after tragedy how to improve.
And we have that picture up right now. Devin Chandler, wide receiver from Huntersville, North Carolina. Deshaun Perry, linebacker from Miami. And Lavelle Davis Jr., another wide receiver from Dorchester, South Carolina. You see those bright smiles. You know they had a bright future. You're playing Division I football, going to an amazing school. Should be the time of your life. It should not be the end of your life.